Hey, ese, ¿qué onda?
What'd you say, amigo?
Where you from, Bato?
It's none of your business,
Huh?
okay? Hey, it's a slight accent. You. Hey, so I grew up in Canada, huh? What's a big fucking deal?
Huh?
You
Whoa,
fucking
whoa, whoa,
racist!
whoa, whoa.
And before you fucking ask,
Chill, Holmes, chill.
no, I'm not a motherfucker.
I decided to make a short video on one of my most favorite video game characters, Trevor Phillips. I wanted to make sense of all the history and backstory he speaks on during the events of Grand Theft Auto 5, so I've organized it in a manner that I feel most makes sense. Some of this information has been added to create flow, so take it with a grain of salt. I wanted to make this video before the Muckingham files came out for Power Wash Simulator, in case there's more lore to cover in that DLC. So let's get into the video! The following video contains spoilers for Grand Theft Auto 5, mentions of illicit substances, and violence. Trevor Phillips was born near real-life Winnipeg, Canada, sometime in 1964. His childhood wasn't exactly the most happy of times, as his birth father and mother were highly abusive of him. His father would abuse him physically by beating him senseless, while his mother always reminded him that he was useless and didn't love her enough. Through his abuse, he was made to feel inferior and small, which most likely contributed to his anger issues. He started out his problematic tendencies by unaliving animals. His parents didn't notice this, as they were far too interested in other things, if you know what I mean. He continued doing this in order to be noticed, only to be abandoned in a shopping mall by his biological father. Since his mother was never very loyal to one partner, due to her profession, Trevor had many fathers and was sent to various foster homes during her jobs and other various psychotic breaks or episodes. His tendencies only got worse as he imagined doing horrible, unspeakable things to his hockey coach, and strangling a clarinet player with his own instrument. Eventually, he even imagined burning down the shopping mall that his father had abandoned him at, and that nobody would ever be able to figure it out. But he didn't do it. During one of his mother's many relationships, she had another son named Ryan. Trevor met Ryan out of foster care once he returned to his mother. He wasn't very fond of Ryan, and he seemed to be Mommy's perfect angel, yet somehow he was still so uncaring towards his mother, who would beat it into him verbally to make sure he knew he was a horrible person. It was then that Ryan died in a tragic accident that Trevor may, or definitely did, may not have caused. Trevor eventually dropped out of school because he didn't feel like it fit him or mentally stimulated him enough to continue forward. Despite that, he ended up with good mathematical skills when he applied that logic to things that mattered to him, such as gold or illicit substances. Eventually, Trevor found out that he had a knack for flying jets and planes. It made him feel like he had purpose again. He enlisted in the Air Force, and just before his training, he had finished his psychological examination, and he failed it, and it deemed him unfit for the air, and then he lost his wings. He became a vagabond, randomly committing petty crimes such as thievery, trespassing, and menace. He wasn't sure what to do with his life until he met Michael Townley in the 1980s. Michael had appeared during one of his jobs unannounced, being followed by a victim of his carjacking. The victim was then killed by Trevor and Michael, and they had to dump the body together. I guess they do say friendship is magic. They undertook many a heist together, the first of which caused Trevor to be sentenced to 4 months in jail. When he was released, that hadn't stopped him. He and Michael went to do dozens of more robberies across the Midwest. Trevor continued onward while his friend Michael grew more cautious due to starting a family, which made Trevor feel like Michael was getting soft. Trevor met Brad Schneider, who became a third companion in their heist, but of course, Michael didn't like him. This leads us to the beginning of GTA 5, in Ludendorff, North Yankton, where they finally fail as a team and Trevor doesn't see Michael for another 9 years, thinking he had died. During this 9-year period, Trevor ends up in Sandy Shores and begins anew with Trevor Phillips Industries, or is it Trevor Phillips Inc.? Naming aside, he begins to trade illicit substances and cook certain things that YouTube would blush at. He gains the help of Ron Wade and Chef through various means. Ron was convinced his wife was holding him back, so he divorced her and moved in next door to Trevor because they were now best friends. He couldn't move or leave because of debt and Trevor's threats. Wade was on the way to an ICP gathering, and Trevor caused his friends to abandon him, if you know what I mean. While Chef gained his job through a heist, and taking out a man to gain $50,000, Trevor formed his new life through fear and manipulation. A new safety net while he coped with the death of the man he saw as his brother. Now, I'm not a professional psychologist, but the following seems in line with his statements of his past. Trevor Phillips is a violent, impulsive, and depressed individual. This is why I feel like he has psychosis, as he tends to have hallucinations or delusions, like his hockey coach, or burning them all down. His mother even comes to dangle a carrot of love in front of him after the main storyline, but it either turns out to be a hallucination or a reminder of how awful his mother is, because she abandoned him once again. His emotional regulatory issues are most likely a personality disorder, which can go hand in hand with psychosis episodes. He can't control his emotions, and thus cannot control his behaviors, which are all acted upon by impulse. He has established a self-image, but his self-image can get tarnished so quickly, so he inflates the truth. This is shown when he says that he was almost pro-golf in Canada under the age of 18. On top of that, he utilizes illegal substances, which can't help his delusions. That paired with all of the abuse, his phobias, being bullied in the past by his peers, and his abandonment issues, really nails down why he's such a troubled person. This of course isn't me excusing his actions, as he's wildly dangerous and unpredictable, which honestly makes him very interesting. All in all, I've always thought Trevor Phillips was an interesting character, and I'm glad I could cover the subject. If you're still here, I just wanted to thank you for 2,500 views on my Power Wash lore video. I read your comments, and I see you're interested in me making more content. I'm in love with lore, and I'm an aspiring author who is currently writing a novel or two. The goal of this channel is to make videos that inspire and excite me to delve into. I want to make content that both interests me and the viewer and allows me to have an experience out of it. Thank you for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next video.